Happy Friday, everyone! Welcome to Melissa's Musings. I'm excited to have my friend Paul on here. And as Paul figures out how to get here, thank you for joining on the replay. Oh, he's already here. All right, let's bring him on camera. There he is. Hello, my friends.
Hello.
How's it going?
Pretty good. You're quiet.
Fantastic. That's what you want on a Friday, is it not?
Oh yeah, a little bit.
A little bit chillax. So, Paul, Alex, this is the first time you are joining in a while live. Welcome. Thank you guys for joining in and watching me and Paul. So for those of you that don't know Paul, I was actually given the awesome opportunity to get introduced to Paul through a client that we closed, I guess, over 2 years ago now, who've become really great friends of ours. And Tina and Gary were the intro path to Paul. And since then, we've jived. He's one of the frequent watchers of my musings. We share very similar mentality and philosophies. And I'm very excited to have you on the show. Tell the audience a little bit about you.
Oof, what is there to say? Well, I'm work over at UCSD right now, which is a great job. I love it. I'm a project manager for IT services. And prior to that, I went to San Diego State, studied history, big giant history nerd. And prior to that, I was in the Navy and spent about a year in Afghanistan or so. So did had a lot of experiences throughout my life, and always trying to look for the answer. What is it all about, and things like that, and all the silly stuff that people always strive to figure out.
Yeah.
So
And I mean, you're not alone in that. There's a lot of people who question some of the age-old questions that we're going to kind of be talking about in today's musing. Like, why are we here? What are we put on this planet for? Like, what's the purpose? And thank you guys for joining in. I see a lot of you watching right now. Norman, CJ, hi guys. And it's a question that you're not alone in asking, but something that a lot of us often are thinking about.
yeah, it's it's one of those things that everybody seems to have their own kind of idea. And one of the problems that I've found is that whoever thinks they have the right answer is completely not willing to see anybody else's point of view.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of what I've discovered. And I've kind of built up this humility to a sense that whatever answer I have is probably also wrong.
Right? Because perspective is reality and perception is
Exactly.
reality. And that's really a fantastic philosophical approach to have, because truly, I talk about it a lot, how there's no right or wrong, but I do love how, identifying with a certain mentality that resonates with you and then living in that belief system, whatever that looks like
Mhm.
for the individual, can be a really beautiful process. And that's one of the things that I really loved watching in your growth and your journey. And so what are some of the kind of tidbits of wisdom that you can share with our audience? I feel like that you tend to bring with you, I feel like, wherever you go.
Well, it's funny because after I got back from Afghanistan, I've always been really interested in history, but I didn't really get serious about it until I was in Afghanistan. Once I got back, I just started reading and researching, and it became like a downward spiral of research. And I just started putting my nose in a bunch of history books, and and then from there, I started looking into philosophy and this and this and that, and science and all that stuff. And one of the topics that I really got into was ancient Roman history. I don't know what it is about ancient Roman history, but it's just super interesting to me. Julius
Oh,
Caesar and all that stuff. And
I love it.
I mean, it's important, and a lot of modern things that we have in our society these days are basically direct echoes of the Roman Empire. For example, this is the month of August, right? And it was specifically named after Augustus, the first emperor of Rome.
Mm-hmm.
Prior to him naming that, it was called Sextilis or something like that.
Interesting.
Yeah, so it's like that kind of stuff that just really got me interested in Roman history. And through that, I discovered Marcus Aurelius. So I kind of always known who Marcus Aurelius was, the guy from Gladiator or whatever, right? But after getting my history degree, I realized maybe that movie's probably not so accurate. But one of the great books that, probably one of the better books that I've ever read, is called Meditations, which is an interesting book because it wasn't ever meant to be published. It
Oh,
was basically Marcus Aurelius, who was a Roman emperor and a general, but in his spare time, he was a philosopher, and he kind of gravitated towards something called Stoicism. So when a lot of people hear the word Stoic, they think like, like super
that's like what
serious
I
all the
think
time.
of. Exactly. It's like,
Yeah, emotions don't matter, things like that. So like the modern English colloquial, use of the word Stoic is somewhat similar, but not really accurate to what ancient Greek and Roman Stoicism is. So it's like Stoic with a lowercase s is like serious all the time, and then Stoic with an uppercase s is, it's like it's one of the roots of the ancient Greek philosophy and stuff like that. And the word comes from stoa, which was, I guess, I don't know if it's a Latin or Greek word for school. So it's like a school of philosophy. But the Stoic virtues and the Stoic kind of thoughts and things that he put in his journal while he was out on, military campaign, it just seems like this is not something that a Roman emperor and general would ever write.
yeah.
It's not like, oh, I'm the best and I'm awesome and I'm gonna go kill the Gauls and all this crazy stuff. It's like seriously like really interesting stuff that's still really, makes sense today.
So,
And it's not like a religious
like,
thing or anything like that.
yeah, like what type
Um,
of stuff? Just out of curiosity, because I'm actually like, I love here. You've got some fans already. Alex is dropping knowledge. Mike says Paul's got crazy history knowledge. I know I'm like so ridiculously intrigued
oh
right now.
yeah.
So, what are some of the
Oh,
things that he does talk about in that's like still maintains relevance today?
yeah. I mean, yeah. Mike knows that he's in Italy right now. I'm super jealous, but or at least he was. But
I'm just
I actually wrote down. I wrote down notes only because I wanted to kind of like I didn't want to like yammer on all day about what Stoicism was, but I did kind of want to like break it down to a few things. And
well,
I
side
guess the
note, I
first,
think we'd all enjoy it, but I do appreciate the highlights. I think all
yeah,
of us right now are like on the edge of our seat, totally enjoying this history lesson.
what
But
is it?
yes, I so
What is it?
appreciate the
I'll
laser.
tell you. I'll tell you after these paid messages.
Okay,
No,
perfect.
I'm just kidding. So I actually have a small list of four, and it's just a small Stoic virtues, and obviously wisdom is one of them. But which virtue, which philosophy doesn't have wisdom, right? Justice is a big one.
Mm.
Courage, and the hardest one that I think people have is temperance, and that's something that I work on myself quite a lot. Temperance kind of is like self-control, discipline, and modesty. Um, so these are lessons that you always have to try to teach yourself every single day when it comes to temperance. It's like, okay, I'm going to go out and have a drink, or maybe two. I'm going to go out and have, some delicious food, but don't like gorge yourself. Have some temperance, have some self-control. Don't shoot your mouth off when it's not appropriate. Don't do ridiculous crap that might get you in trouble or might hurt anybody else. It's just kind of having the type of self-control and discipline and modesty to just be like, you know, you treat others with respect, they'll treat you with respect, but also at the same time, it teaches you kind of how to live a better life in that. So one of my favorite quotes by Marcus Aurelius is, actually I've got it here on the screen. It says, "Be tolerant with others and strict with yourself." And
Mm.
that's something that I kind of try to live by. It's like, everybody's got their own opinion. Of course, I've got my opinion, and people who know me know that I either used to be or still kind of am, but I'm working on it. Super opinionated, but just got to keep it to yourself. Everybody's opinion is okay, things like that. But just having the self-control and discipline and modesty to, live your life with temperance is
I
a good
love
thing.
that. I love that because I almost feel like in today's day, like temperance isn't even a word that you hear very often.
Hmm.
And like, what a
Yeah,
beautiful embodiment of kind of like living in integrity and almost embodying the golden rule and being,
exactly.
the what it is that you want to bring to the world. Kind of like temperance. What a beautiful word, and I love that that's what you've referenced here in defining it, because I feel like it's not a word that we commonly use, and it does truly embody like everything that you're describing.
Oh yeah, and it's interesting too because it's not like complete abstinence from everything. Like, don't
Absolutely.
have any, don't ever drink beer, don't ever eat junk food, but it's just temperance, we only have one life to live. We don't know what happens after we're dead.
Yep.
As much as anybody thinks that they do, at the end of the day, nobody really does.
Absolutely. Like
Regardless of what your religious or philosophical belief is, we don't know what happens after the lights go out. But what we do know is how to live now and here, and basically just treat everything like it's your last day. Today's your last day. How are you going to live it?
yeah.
How are people going to remember you? Things like that. And there's a couple of discipline lessons that I was able to pull out as well, because, like I said, one of the big things that I have been really working on myself is discipline, temperance, things like that. And the first one is find wise people to emulate. And that's something that I think a lot more people should do. And I mean, of course, it's good to take care of yourself, take care of number one. But look throughout history, look in your life, look in your past, and find wise people to emulate. I've got an old commanding officer that I had in Afghanistan, uh, extremely wise, and I want to be like him. Marcus Aurelius, extremely wise. I want to be like him. I've got, just people throughout history that you just like, you learn good lessons from, and even bad lessons too. You don't have to be
The
a
lesson.
good person to teach lessons. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of people learn lessons from dictators in the past because it's like, okay, well, we can learn this lesson from Hitler and Mussolini and Stalin, because it's like those are things that we shouldn't be doing. So
Absolutely. And I
it's
think
like
that's an important realization too. And two things that I want everyone who's watching to know. We've got so many people joining in. Thank you guys for watching. Frank, hello, Danielle, Heather.
get
Ultimately, two
water.
things that I want to point out that you mentioned that are really powerful are finding the mentors not only in our everyday life but also in history. I love that you identified that there are people in history who quite literally can be, people that we aspire to be like, and we can study
Mhm.
their written work. And so often we think of mentors and associate it with people who are still alive and breathing and around us. And yes, there is a certain power in identifying and being able to be in community with people like that. But I found it very powerful that you mentioned people, philosophers who
Mhm.
you study for the impact that it gives to you. And then the second thing that I wanted to address, that I also found super powerful, was kind of the perspective, with those individuals, learning from not only all of the positive, but the mistakes that they've made from the past. Because,
Mhm.
that's one of the things that I feel like a lot of my mentors have really tried to teach me. And some things, of course, you stumble through or you choose not to listen and you get to learn for yourself. But there's other things that I've been able to avoid making the same mistakes myself because I've been able to learn through their mistakes.
Yeah, yeah, and it's something that another Stoic philosopher named Seneca taught us was, don't just look up to one person, because take be yourself, obviously, but don't just look up to one person. Find wisdom in everybody that you meet. Find some of the wisest people. Try to live like them, and sometimes somebody that you look up to does something jacked up. Well, don't do that, but still learn from the good things that they do.
Yeah.
Um,
And also
yeah, and
realize they're human and they're not, the world's not
exactly,
ending when they make mistakes too. Everybody does it. Sometimes I find it
exactly.
like mind blowing how quickly people can turn against their mentors or, people that they look up to when they do something. And we're all human beings and everybody screws up at some point. So what I look for in my mentors is how do they handle the screw up? Like, how do they handle, what's their
Hmm.
resulting action? Because a lot of times that's where we can really see the power within the mentors that we choose. And that's, I think, where we can either choose to continue really, following and adopting a lot of what they practice, or based on their reaction, we can choose that we no longer respect their integrity and those kinds of things. But I often, personally, am
Yeah,
conflicted when from the resulting, oh my goodness, there was an affair or whatever. How is their resulting
yeah,
action in regards to the affair? Because everybody makes mistakes.
yeah. And I mean, I've had some, superiors in the military that I just looked up to, and they were just like awesome. And, many of them still are, but one or two of them got in big trouble while they were in. And that I'm going to completely disregard everything that they taught me. No, I'm just going to not do the thing that got them into big trouble. Learn, or to teach, rather.
Yeah.
But yeah, the second discipline lesson that I learned was basically do your day. And that's just kind of just a regular out of the box stoic practice. And so what I did was I bought like this, there's a book on online, it's just kind of like the Daily Stoic, and it kind of gives you, and I put a little nice leather thing on it and put commentarius, which is Latin for like journal, because I'm a dork. And it has like little
I
prompts
love
in
it.
here, you know.
There's nothing
What
dorky. Eliminate that
bad
conversation.
habit
This
did I
is super
curb today?
awesome.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, you know, for example, what bad habit did I curb today? And then so you got, what am I going to do today? You know, yesterday, how was it? You know, how can I make changes? Evening reflection right before you go to bed, you just sit there and think about, you know, what did I do well? What can I do better? And just every single day, you kind of, you're able to reflect on what you did. And it's not just like a diary, like, oh, I went to work and then I went to a meeting. And no, it's like talking about your thoughts and your interactions and your kind of outlook and everything like that. And the cool thing is you can just kind of look back on it at any point and go like, dude, having a rough day that day, or made a lot of progress. And you know, because I was looking here back in February, complaining I'm not losing any weight. Well, you know, fast forward to August, I'm down 25 pounds. You never know; it just kind of sneaks up on you. One of the other
Yeah.
discipline lessons that I learned, or I'm trying to learn, is your distractions are your own doing. That is something that's to drive home as far as, you know, what is distracting you, what is making you upset, what type of things are, you know, are you getting mad at somebody if he cuts you off? What does it matter if you get mad? You just go, cut me off, go around. You might have basically your fault for letting it distract you. You know, Marcus Aurelius is actually a hard teacher. You know, he you know, he's like he's hard on you because he loves you type situation, like a but yeah, it's kind of like let's see, what is it? Two has, you don't have to turn this into something, it doesn't have to upset you. And also, to live a good life, we have the potential for it if we learn to be indifferent to what makes no difference. So it's just it's kind of his whole philosophy is like, what defines you as a person and what defines your character is how you react to the things that happen around you. Bad things are going to happen to you. That's inevitable. And if you just get always just all the time, you're just going to have like just a terrible existence. You know, nobody's going to want to be around you because you're, you know, Debbie Downer, negative Nancy. Nobody wants to be around that. But like, if you're just like, yeah, well, it happens, you know, just life seems to be better. One time I actually was able to go out to Las Vegas for San Diego State football game. On the way back after the football game, my car, middle of the desert. My insurance only covered me to get my car towed to the nearest service shop, which was in Baker. I don't know if you know what Baker has, got the giant thermometer and the little alien jerky place. It was closed on Sundays. So I was basically stranded in Baker for 2 days. And all I could do was just like, whatever, man. I guess I'm going to be eating a lot of Denny's and beef jerky. And I think that was probably the first time that I was to really X type of temperance and self-control, and not letting negative things that happened to me ruin my day or ruin my life. You know, obviously I was pissed off right when it happened and I, you know, pouted to myself, but you know, I had to wait for 2 days for a buddy of mine to come and, you know, we had daisy chain a tow truck, you know, from Baker to, you know, Bakersfield to, or I don't remember the name of the city, but we basically had to have 3 different tow trucks take my car home. But yeah, it's just bad things to do, and if you react to them negatively, they're gonna bug you. If you react to them like, well, brush it off. It's how much happier your life is, because you're just like, nothing really bugs me anymore, you know? You know, sometimes things frustrate me, but they don't bother me anymore. It's kind of amazing, you know?
Absolutely. And I think that's too, like, the taking ownership and responsibility aspect of, like, whatever happens in life, right? Because I always, you know, joke with John, sometimes you run into that person where, like, literally, like, their world is and it's a disaster of a day every day. And then the thing is, they're the common denominator. It's like they're rolling through life, just being a disaster, being super grumpy to everybody that comes in contact with them. And then, of course, in return, everybody's grumpy, you know, in return. And so I love that in taking full ownership and responsibility of the things that happen in your life. Yes, you can't control, for example, your car breaking down in the middle of the desert, but you can absolutely control your reaction to it. So similar to how we were just chatting about, you know, when you identify the mentors in your life and what they stand for and what their reaction is, that's really the powerful aspect of their mentorship.
Yeah, and it's actually pretty funny that today's prompt in this, can I go a whole day without blaming others? And it's just talking about, like, before I read that this morning, I was sitting on the porch drinking my coffee with the cat, and like every so often there's like this burglar alarm that goes off across the street or somewhere in the neighborhood, and I'm like, who the fuck keeps turning on this burglar alarm at 6 in the morning? Like, and it happens so often, and I was just getting so mad. I'm like, what kind of idiot keeps doing this? And then I realized I'm getting all pissed off about it, and I'm blaming that guy, and I'm just sitting here thinking to myself, yeah, it's gonna happen because it's probably a faulty system, or maybe the person's just not, you know, paid enough to give a shit. So getting mad isn't really going to change anything about it. I'm just going to have to sit there and deal with it until it gets turned off. So it usually gets turned. I just thought it was so funny.
Yeah.
How it's like right after I complained about the alarm, I read that and I'm like, oh, I already screwed up.
And you're like, oh shit, I'll try this tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I started from like, okay, the day starts. And that actually kind of leads me to the fourth and final discipline lesson. Is it's every day is a new life. If you treat every day as a new life, you know, what if you screw up today? Well, that's fine. Start over tomorrow. You know, Marcus Aurelius had another quote that says, you could leave life right now. Okay. Think about, I don't remember the exact quote, but it's, you could leave life right now and use that to kind of guide how you should live, you know? Like if you were to leave life right now, how would you want people to remember you? And it's kind of powerful. It's dark, but it's powerful, you know?
Yeah, it's truly embodying that.
I think there might be a
every
little
moment
bit of
as
delay.
it's your last and living it to the fullest and truly taking that. What'd you say?
I said I think there might be a little bit of a delay. You might have a connection issue or something.
If you're experiencing some connection issues, I'm noticing Facebook is giving me all kinds of warnings on my end. But I so appreciate the wisdom that you imparted on us. Are you done sharing your points? Because, oh my goodness, man, like, thank you. I feel like I've walked away a lot more wise today from Melissa's musings, so I appreciate all of you guys tuning in.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, I got plenty of books to recommend if anybody wants any reading recommendations and stuff like that. And yeah, it's just it's simple stuff. It's, you know, not religious. It's not, you know, like an immediate immediately change your life, or, you know, it's not like The Secret or anything like that. It's just like, you know, simple, logical, pragmatic things you can do every day to just, you know, brush it off, man. Life is too short to worry about stupid shit.
I love it. The wisest words you've said all video. So in the wise words of Paul, you guys, brush it off. Don't let the shit, you know, roll with the punches. Don't let the shit bring you down. And thank you so much for seriously gracing us all with so much wisdom and knowledge. And for those of you who now can see why Paul and I became fast friends, definitely hit him up. He's buff I would love for you to put some of the book suggestions here in the comments, Paul, because like I for one know I want to add at least the meditations one to my list. And
Yes.
yeah, thank you so much for being on the show. You're gonna have to be back on, I feel like, because the interaction was major. Everybody was loving it.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And keep in mind that it's not my wisdom at all. It's everybody else's wisdom, and all I'm doing is like relaying it.
Hey, I don't ever take ownership of all of the wisdom I impart on Melissa's musings. I'm continually learning from those around me and in books and things like that. So thank you, Paul, so much for joining us today. Thank you guys. Hope you have a
Never
wonderful
stop
Friday.
learning.
Thank you so much for tuning in to Melissa's Musings Featured Friend Friday. And I hope you guys have a wonderful day. I'll talk to you soon.
Go Rams.